Yes, well, Brian Marlow, the campaign director of Legalise Vaping Australia, is in Canberra this morning, but he's got some big news from across the Dutch. New Zealand has just announced new regulations for vaping, and advocates in Australia believe we should replicate them. Let's find out what the Kiwis have done. Brian Marlow, welcome back to 2CC Breakfast. Remind my listeners what vaping is, please.
So vaping is essentially, it's a way to heat a liquid that creates a vapour. You can then inhale it, and it mimics the act of smoking, but it's 95% safer than smoking tobacco products.
Got it.
It doesn't have any of the carcinogens and the tar that traditional cigarettes do.
95% less chance of giving you cancer.
That's correct.
What has New Zealand announced, Brian?
Well, so New Zealand has essentially regulated e-cigarettes and smoke-free products in a way that separates them from cigarettes, because they've identified, well, these aren't cigarettes, they are safer, so therefore they should have a slightly different set of regulatory framework, which is something that we should be doing here, because currently, as you know, vaping with nicotine is illegal, and the flow-on effect from that is a lot of these vaping products are illegal to use in Australia, which is ludicrous.
Did the Kiwi Health Department get involved in getting these rules going?
Yes, they did. So they worked really closely on this. One of the things they identified is that they need to reduce smoking rates, especially Indigenous smoking rates over in New Zealand, where it's about double the average. Here it's even worse. It's about triple the national average. So they've decided to actually take action on this and reduce smoking rates, and it's working. Smoking rates in New Zealand are going down, and in Australia they're staying stagnant. And in New South Wales, where I'm from, they've actually gone up slightly.
I know that we've got a number of federal parliamentarians in Australia that do support changes to the law to allow vaping. It is an alternative to, as you said, very harmful tobacco use. Should Australia simply replicate New Zealand's rules, or can we do things slightly differently or slightly better?
Look, I mean, there's always room to do things ever so slightly better. What those detailed policies would look like, I think we'd have to get to that. But at the very least, we need to be looking at what's happening over in New Zealand and going, look, they're taking action here. Smoking rates are going down as a result. Why aren't we doing this? Or why aren't we doing something, as close to it as possible? Well, there's always going to be variations because we're a slightly different country with a different demographic. Yeah, we should be trying to replicate what they're doing over there.
Sure. All right, couple of things. We know the likes of Trent Zimmerman, Liberal from North Sydney. Tim Wilson is a Liberal member from Victoria. Who on Labor side or on the Independents or even in the Senate is backing the legalisation of vaping here in Australia? Who have you spoken to on the crossbenches and in Labor?
So in the crossbench, you've got the likes of Senator David Leyonhjelm, Senator Corey Bernardi, Darren Hinch. I believe even Senator Fraser Anning supports legalisation of vaping. One Nation supports the legalisation of vaping. So this is something that the crossbench is pretty...
What about Labor, Lower House Labor? Who in Lower House Labor?
Well, the Labor Party we are meeting with, and there are some members that probably support it. However, currently the party policy is that they believe in the current regulatory model, but we're getting there. So It's a case of making the case of them and showing them. We've got the data and the figures on our side. There's 50 studies now internationally that show that this is a safer alternative than health.
All right. There's never been a more exciting time to push something through, my friend. You may have noticed the numbers have changed slightly in the lower House of Representatives, right? Yeah. So, Brian, look, you got to reignite. Excuse the pun. You got to reignite the campaign. Talk to Tim Wilson. Talk to Trent Zimmerman. Talk to Senator Leyonhjelm, Hinch, and others, and get the conversation going. If this saves one life, if it gets one tobacco smoker off the addiction of using nicotine through a carcinogenic delivery model, it's got to be worthwhile. I know Greg Hunt is saying no. I know the Federal Health Department is saying no. I know the Therapeutic Goods Administration is saying no. But do you reckon whilst this Parliament is in a more flexible environment that you've got a better chance of getting legalising of vaping here in Australia?
I think so. I mean, I wouldn't be down here in Canberra pushing for it if I didn't believe that.
Yeah, well, you need the Federal Parliamentary Friends of Vaping, right? They've got a Federal Parliamentary Friends of AFL, Rugby League, Federal Parliamentary Friends of Women and Work. So what do you reckon? Do you need to get the likes of Wilson and Zimmerman and Hinch and Lionhelm to get the Federal Parliamentary Friends of Vaping going?
You know what? Maybe that's a good idea.
Oh,
Maybe
mate, up here for ideas, Brian. Up here for ideas. Hey, listen, good to talk, and well done to the Kiwis. I think, you know, when this gets down to it, would we like people not to be addicted to alcohol? Of course. Would we like people not to be addicted to the use of marijuana and the THC and the dreadful outcomes of that? Of course we would. But if one life can be saved, and I've had listeners after every interview, Brian, when I speak to you, Tim, I haven't picked up a packet of cigarettes for 2 years. I feel better. It's gone from $800 a month habit down to about $120 for the oils. It's got to make a difference, mate, and I think we've got to keep pushing. Will you let me know how you go with the Federal Parliamentary Friends of Vaping?
Absolutely.
Good on you, Brian. Thanks. Brian Marlow is the campaign director. Legalise Vaping Australia is in Canberra today. There's never been a more exciting time to get those crossbenchers and others on board.